Welcome to the new Habitat, a live show. My name is Matteo Cassese, and next to me I have Tommaso Lana. Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Good afternoon. Hello from Berlin.
I'm in Long Island, New York.
Long Island. Fantastic. That explains your tan.
Yes, it does. How you doing, Matteo?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I just had a conversation with a client, and it's the first client since the pandemic began that really timidly asked me, maybe we can do this in person. They are uh, they
Okay.
are here in Berlin, and they're saying, I need to ask special authorization to my office, but maybe we could do this in person. It was amazing.
Now tell me, what does this client want to do with you in person that it's not possible to be done in video?
Oh, maybe just drink a coffee. Because basically I'm all geared for doing everything in video, but actually the opportunity is to have a hands-on workshop, and this hands-on workshop might work slightly better if we are in person. So we are at the final paradox of this moment in time.
Okay, so whoever is watching right now, this is the reason why I've decided to have a live show with Matteo. Uh, have you seen the quality of this whole thing? I can't do the overlays and the logo and the lighting, and I can't do that. But I just need to tell you, so the new habitat, it's something that Matteo is thinking about since 2014. So he was ready for the COVID pandemic in 2014, and I wasn't ready in 2014. I wasn't ready in March 2020, and that's why we are doing this thing. So we've been in conversation for the past months, basically on a daily basis, about how our businesses were impacted. You don't know what we're doing, but well, we will have time to talk about that in the next minutes and episodes. Um, the interesting thing is that when COVID happened, Matteo was ready, and he started just selling products, promoting things, and trying to figure out how to make a real impact as first uh, entrepreneur who works by using technology. And I was uh, I've worked for 15 years on using sensory abilities, movement, and imagination to improve the quality of communication and collaboration of people at work in education, in the corporate sector. And I was trying to start with the healthcare as the pandemic outbroke. And yeah, this is going to be my dream for the year. Uh, and so I've done only things that are very practical, live with people, and I really didn't know how to move on. And slowly, I realized that I could use the video and do things that are related to sensations, movement, emotions, also with this medium, uh, because embodiment practices are able also, if there is a distance that is not only a social distance, but can be a distance like the one we are having now between Matteo and me, an ocean in between. Because we have physical memories and abilities and the physical imagination to understand what the other person on the other side of this ocean is doing. So let me start with something physical that I always dreamt of.
What's that, Tommaso?
This is my Zoom shirt. So I read an article in the New York Times 10 days ago about, can we name? Yeah, well, it was public on the Times, so we can talk about him. The CEO of Funny or Die apparently attended 70 meetings by wearing always the same shirt.
And nobody noticed
Nobody noticed.
over months.
No,
That's crazy.
no. And this is my shirt. I am wearing every time I make a video.
I remember this shirt.
So probably this was one of the first steps I made when I decided that I should try to put what I do on camera. So by the way, if you want to know what I do and you have the chance to use multiple devices, you should maybe go on Instagram at Embodied Learning and see how it looks. But anyway, my professional life since March 2020 looks like this. And I was the choice of this shirt was that it works pretty well with lights in video. So everything that is around me appears more shiny because this is darker. And also, I have another one.
Also, you're redundant. Perfect.
So I can do 35 meetings with one and 35 meetings with the other one.
Well, that's wonderful. I have to admit that yeah, as you were saying, I was sort of ready for going online and ready for going full video because I made this crazy decision 9 years ago. I placed my office a few thousand kilometers away from my clients. It was a completely non-rational decision, but I realized that I could work from anywhere and I wanted to demonstrate it. And so I have been working in a screen, on a screen, through a screen for the longest time. And I had the time to refine it a little bit. And so my version of the Zoom shirt is actually over the years creating a setup where I always know that I have good lighting so that you can see me well, that I have a good microphone so that you can hear me well, that I have a room with no background noise so that the sound comes through and you don't hear other stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's completely fine if you have a dog barking or if there's a kid coming from the other room and telling you something. But overall, this impression of professionality that we try to give with the shirt might be also translated into the quality of what we transmit through this new medium.
Well, you know what's interesting? I'm wearing a shirt now, but I'm barefoot. Now, this is my next step in the new habitat. So if I have to work on with a team of people or with an individual on how to feel professional, feel good in a setting that may be temporary, but it could be also a setting that will be becoming our new habitat for a longer time. Then I would talk about sensations, and it is so great that it doesn't matter in what country you are. We are not talking about taboos or breaking social rules. You're just seeing me here. Apparently looking well, and I'm talking about my feet. And I would like to have you having this sensation now to feel even more comfortable on screen and think about that. Oh yeah, well, this is something that I couldn't do before COVID outbroke. I highly likely I wasn't thinking about feeling comfortable while I'm working. And this is a given chance, in my opinion, also because if I think of all the professionals I usually work with at the moment, the dialogues we have in video, it's very interesting. I see them not thinking about the comfort of their bodies or the comfort of their person while they're doing something that is incredibly tiring, because this is now the experience. So, well, we're going just randomly, but this is how I started. On May 1st, I was supposed to speak at a conference in New York City in the early childhood education sector. And obviously, a conference couldn't be hosted live, so they asked the speakers just to be ready with 1 hour session recorded. And I never done anything like that. So I tried my best. I realized that for 1 hour I couldn't kill my audience by showing only slides. And so I decided to turn on the iPad camera. I had an iPad because I love watching Australian rules football. My wife is Australian, and so actually I bought an iPad to watch the sport in the evening while I'm in the kitchen. And suddenly that thing, which means just recreation and leisure for me, was the only key to continue my job. So I tried by recording little bits to make 1 hour show about actually very interesting communication between teacher and parents, parents of young children.
But that's really interesting. So you had a slot, and the organizer told you we're going to use Zoom. And everybody that prepares something for Zoom, basically they are preparing some slides, or maybe not even preparing slides, and they know they're going to be in live video. Instead, you use the live platform to be live on the platform, and then every once in a while you would break and then have recorded videos. So you already had, in this first experience with an online conference, this switch of mentality, which is I cannot do everything, all the bells and whistles live as I'm talking to you. So I'm going to produce this into something else, into a show. And this, well, links very well back to what we're doing right now. We are planning, this is the first episode of a show. And we can't, it's if you call it just a live stream, you're sort of diminishing it in a useless way. We're going straight ahead in this direction of being producers of shows.
Well, this is probably a key point that helped me a lot in the past months to move on and continue making stuff and doing business. Thinking about the video and the work I'm doing as a production, which is actually a way of proceeding that belonged also to the way I set up my 3-hour professional development session, or a 1 hour coaching, or sometimes 1 hour and a half session at the conference. So I exactly know how it's going to be going if I am a solo speaker or if I am interacting with the audience. So I knew the times. And it wasn't actually a dramatic step, using the same times just by recording little bits with the iPad. The cool thing is that you anticipated something that I started doing after that conference in May. So I realized that I could record parts of my live webinar sessions or meetings to be more impactful, because I could some way wake attentions and point at topics that are hard to show if you are live and you have to move a laptop and often, since I'm working with the body, I'm on the ground, and then I have to invite the interlocutor on the other side of the screen to sit on the ground. So it may be complicated. So I started recording bits. The cool thing of that premiere in video was that I just needed to record. And I realized the cool thing was just realizing that all these conferences are aired online by using one format of video, the MP4. So obviously, if you make 1 hour of MP4 only slides only, it's going to be a very light file. But nobody seemed to be concerned about the dimension of the file that every speaker sends to the conference. So I thought, okay, I will make basically 1 hour movie, the Embodied Learning Tommaso Lana show. I will have scenes. I will ask my stepson, who was at home anyway, so to do something that is probably more interesting than homeschooling. And so he interacted with me, and he was playing the role of the parent while I was playing the role of the teacher. And we made it. We made it, and then I could use the same material for a bigger conference, the Institute of the National Association for the Education of Young Children, which is still online and free, by the way. So if you want to see how it looks, recording 1 hour of a total active, dynamic, physical, professional development, then you can do it. Again, if you go probably the quickest to my Instagram at Embodied Learning, then you can find the pathway to all this stuff. So I started feeling well in the new habitat. And at that moment, I started observing again my interlocutors and my stakeholders and my partners. Because this is what I usually do. I always have this tendency of analyzing body language, of trying to understand the physical and emotional behaviors. And then I noticed that, there are many people who interact with us on screen, but in their mind, they're thinking, oh, wow, interesting what I'm seeing. I will do it when I will go back to my previous life.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point, that we are we in a temporary space, or is this the new habitat? And this is really a question we want to explore with this show.
Yeah. So if I think of the education sector, do you have troubles, man? No, here everything live.
No, everything is live. Every once in a while, I want to check what people are actually hearing out of our conversation. But I'm still with you. That's the fun of being live, actually.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a big thing, because I am starting seeing the bright side of this catastrophe that happened to all of us. Remember when you sent me that a podcast about some car freaks who had the chance to interview Jerry Seinfeld, and then Jerry Seinfeld goes, "It's the first time that the world is in the same mood."
Yes.
Yeah. So we are in a catastrophe. And so in this catastrophe, I wanted to find the bright side.
Yeah.
And the bright side is we have an opportunity to do something better probably in our lives, probably with our families, but also at work. So.
Can we start also? I think it would be interesting if we start just talking about small tips and small things that we applied during this time. Like, for instance, arcing back to the idea of a Zoom shirt, one of the things that really keeps me sane is that I always start working after being dressed and having a shower. So I never begin work in my pajamas because I tried it in my 9 years of pandemic on my own, and it never actually worked. And another thing that I think it really changes the quality and also changes the quality of this conversation is that both you and me, we are standing right now. We're not sitting slouching on our chairs. We're both standing, and this is if you're able to do this during your conversations, it will really change. First of all, the conversation, you cannot have a 3-hour call standing. You'll get physical fatigue. So before you get mental fatigue, your body will tell you, hey, I'm tired, I can't do this anymore. And then this will really help you with the timing. Tom, before you give your tips in this sense, I wanted to share also what is going to happen with the new habitat in terms of where you will be able to find it. Because right now we are live streaming on Twitter on Embodied Learning, we're live streaming on Facebook on Embodied Learning, and we are live streaming on YouTube on Matteo Cassese on my channel. But actually, we have set up channels on YouTube and Facebook for the new habitat specifically. We want to invite people to never miss an episode because we would really like to create a lot of these episodes. So you can subscribe on YouTube and like us on Facebook so that you can get a notification whenever we go live. We also try to share a schedule, but that's also a possibility just to get a notification when we go live. Tom, do you have any like practical tips and things that you changed in your day-to-day that people can apply?
That's why. Sorry, I need to break this. So that's why we're doing the new habitat, because this guy on my side always dreamt to have the past 30 seconds you've heard. So he needs to be the anchorman of his own show. And I sensed it, and I just thought, oh, why do we have to call each other every day and talk about very interesting things about our work practices without having some pleasure? And for that guy next to me, the pleasure is doing what he did. He introduced all the websites and email addresses and contacts and so on. And yeah, I mean, there is nothing else but making people happy. I'm caring about, and that's why there is a reason why we're talking now. So Matteo just did that, and now he has also a script, and he knows that he has to ask me to give a couple of tips about yeah, how things have changed. And I can just subscribe what you said about the clothing, but probably the interesting thing is that we know this because we've been and we are freelancers. So as a freelancer, you always have the chance to get up and then have your home office and then probably never change your pajamas and brush your teeth, but it's going to be a very miserable life. But the interesting thing was being able to make the step outside of the home office and then understanding that you can build a home office by knowing that you're doing something positive to yourself. To me, the interesting thing was learning how to avoid being fearful of a camera, actually.
Let's talk about that.
So, I mean, I met Matteo in Germany. I used to live in Berlin in 2010, I guess.
2011.
2011.
9 years ago.
And it was very interesting because I needed to show Matteo the work I do. And he started immediately saying, oh, wow, this would be working very well if you would show it in a video. Oh, no, what are you talking about? Video? I don't want. It's so funny. I think I was jealous. It's like I want people to enjoy my toys, but like only my hands. Okay, so come to my workshop, play with my toys, but then we know that the workshop is over and you are going to your house and you will try to figure out what to do with the toys you've seen, but by using the materials you have at your place. And so I had really troubles as an entrepreneur, I do performance art. So maybe as a performance artist, I had really troubles to realize that I could share something that is inspiration, but actually I could also share something that is physical and can be replicated and scaled, and there is no damage in the ethics of my business or in the revenues of my business.
But
So
sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you,
okay.
but I think it's very interesting that for us as freelancers, but also for everybody else, that there is one first barrier that is already being on video. So how did you overcome just being on video, your
Okay.
appearance and
Uh,
so on?
sure, sure. So let me close. For 9 years, I fought Matteo, who wanted to put me on camera, and I didn't go on camera. And then the thing I did was very simple. I took the iPad, I recorded the first session by seeing myself while I was recording it.
With
And
the
I
selfie
hated it.
camera,
Yeah, I was
using the
using the selfie.
selfie.
Yeah. And I couldn't stand seeing myself doing something that I've been doing for 15 years uh, on camera. And so the thing I've done for for the next project was just flipping the iPad so that I could see the back of the iPad, and I had just the little lens of the camera pointed at me. Uh, I helped myself just by putting also a red dot under it with, I just used some tape, and so that I knew that I had a focus. And then basically I started teaching classes about embodied learning to my camera. So I had this revelation that I could actually imagine that I am talking to a crowd by having a human relationship with a digital device. It's crazy, but it worked. It worked, and I recorded a few videos with that technique until I saw myself in the videos I started publishing for free on YouTube. So if you go on YouTube, Embodied Learning, then you find a channel, and then there are some interesting things that I've done secretly with private groups, my clients, for 9 years, no more, 12 years. And now finally they're open to everyone. Uh, I started seeing myself, and it wasn't that bad. And since then, I can just play videos, no problem, record videos, no problem, by seeing myself doing it, and it works pretty well. And as I told you on a certain point during this live, I'm starting uh, appreciating uh, this new habitat because I am perfecting things that I know I will take with me also in case somebody will find a vaccine.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is also what I'm doing right now, because also for me, being on camera was a big problem. Um, I even had for a lot of time this studio set up, which is some lights that I bought on Amazon, and I had a part of my bedroom was the studio. So actually, people thought that when they were visiting my house for dinner, they thought that I was in the porn business because I had all these lights in the bedroom. But actually, that it's a lucrative business, but that was not what I was into. And now I sort of got rid of all of that and just made sure that my computer has a minimal lighting system. And at the beginning, I was only using professional cameras, and now I've scaled it all down to just using the camera on my computer. It was a really long process, and to this day, when I look at my YouTube channel that I think I started around 2014, when I launched my presentation skills and public speaking training system, when I watch the videos where I appear on video, I'm still cringing. And now, slowly, 6 years later, I'm starting to feel all right and starting to feel that, yeah, that's something you can do, and you don't always need the overkill 4K cinematic camera. You can do it with whatever medium you have, as long as there is a certain level of quality. And this brings me to what I'm also trying to do with my clients right now, is to give them a baseline of saying, if you are going to have a 1 hour session online and you're going to have a public, these are the standards you want to be able to reach. And obviously I do so in my own way. And what I'm doing next week is 22 webinar secrets all virtual presenters should know. And this is a free webinar that you can join. I just pulled up the address here.
Oh, I watched it. I liked it.
The reactions are amazing. The reactions are off the charts, because as Tom, you sort of instinctively realize that we have this medium and we can start playing with this medium. It's not just that we are stuck on GoToMeeting, or we are not stuck on WebEx or Zoom or Google Meets, but actually it's a new canvas, and we can start playing with this new canvas. As in the same way that you started playing first with your website, and then you started playing with social media. I mean, our paths are very similar, because as freelancers, we also need to decide where to give our time. Because if I'm doing a YouTube video, obviously I'm not in that moment talking to a client. So it's a really important time decision. So whenever I'm investing in my Instagram, that needs to bring something in the long term. But now with video, what is really happening is that I'm practicing what I was preaching to you when we met, because around the time that we met, I was writing articles entitled Radical Openness.
Yeah.
But I wasn't applying it, actually, because my videos were all scripted.
Yeah, you needed a pandemic.
I needed a pandemic because my videos were all super polished, super scripted. They all had professional backgrounds, professional everything. They needed to be the top level of quality. And no, they need to be the top level of meaning. And this is what we want to do with the new Habitat. How can we give to everybody the top level of meaning while we're helping each other not only survive the pandemic, but thrive in whatever this new innovation that we had in the past 3 months, where all the pockets of future that we already had at our disposal, e-commerce instead of going to the shop, delivery instead of going to the restaurant, Zooming instead of flying and going into a meeting. All of these tools were just simply put to the forefront because there was no other option. And I wonder how many new tools will start. This is from Twitter. One of my favorite jokes about this pandemic is that it came from a tweet, and it was that it's a pity that COVID is the name of this disease, because actually COVID would be a great tool for a collaboration video platform. And this is where we are. We are in the COVID platform, fortunately. Hopefully we're not battling the disease right at this moment. We are taking all the precautions needed, but we're also enjoying this new COVID platform.
it's funny, but I realized after offering thousands of metaphorical games and experiences to the people I worked with for years, and try to simplify messages and resolve conflicts or just manage complex situations, or sometimes I like to say enjoy problems. Uh, there is something I never really worked on with people, and that is mirroring yourself and get a new level of self-awareness by seeing yourself in the image that actually is offered to the public. And this is something that I've learned by trying to do videos on camera. So it was the first time, as someone who works with body and emotions, uh, to realize that I was seeing myself. And I mean, it's getting interesting because it could be a tool for therapists. It could be a tool for everyone. If you would really take the time and say, okay, now I need to invest in appreciating myself by what I'm doing, mirrored. Imagine your life with a mirror that constantly stays in front of you. So I remember the beginning of the smartphone age when smartphone really became popular, and then there was a wave of alarm about people who are not socializing anymore, and everyone is just looking in the screen. And you remember, I was very concerned, especially because I worked a lot with adults who work with young children, and I was really concerned to see things evolving in a direction that I didn't like. And well, people were looking into content, but they weren't looking at themselves. And now in this interesting habitat, uh, people are looking at each other again. So they're using a device actually not to do something that is uh, subjective or centered into interest or boredom of yourself, but you are interacting
And you're
again, and
interacting.
and you're seeing yourself while interacting. So in the quality of the interaction improves, which means the content of the interaction improves. And if now I'm thinking of something that I've read a few weeks ago. So Harvard University is going to switch to online teaching for the whole academic year, beginning from fall 2020. So how can you teach good content if you don't work on yourself as someone who presents themselves very powerfully in front of an audience? It was the first example that triggered a few thoughts in my head. So um, we have the screen that actually is a mirror, and we haven't looked at ourselves into mirrors for a long time. And I think we can talk more about that, and I can do also some research about that for one of the next episodes. It's fascinating to think that this situation will help us probably go into a pathway of self-awareness and understanding how we interact with others. That could be really useful for a time of our human history where we probably finish doing this to do it better otherwise.
Yeah, because the risk, if whatever software you use, obviously you have the possibility of looking at your partner that you're calling with, or you can look at yourself through the software. And so there is this interesting paradox that we are together with other people, but we are constantly more or less looking at ourselves and how we are looking. So are we listening attentively? Do we have the right listening body language, or do we have the right talking body language? Are we smiling enough, etc., etc.? And I wonder if we are becoming maybe too conscious in the direction of being scared of our appearance or being too controlling of our appearance. Will we need to relax more on video, or is it more something about of this evolutionary step that you're talking about, which is a really interesting way to looking at it? I could sort of evolve my experience of talking to people. I can evolve my experience in leading people, in inspiring people, because I have this mirror that really helps me. And whenever I say something where I want people to follow me and I make a gesture that is like self-detrimental, then I can see it and I can immediately react upon it. So maybe it's also something interesting for all becoming better public speakers, because we have this sort of constant feedback if we realize it in the right way of saying, okay, if I want to say this really important thing about this thing that I'm selling, if I'm slouching and I'm looking to one side, maybe I'm not as credible as if I'm standing straight and with my chin forward and saying, oh, this is a great product, you should really use it.
Yeah, well, I think we are in the phase of the life where we are just mentioning all the things that could change or develop or grow. Well, you indirectly mentioned motivation. I think that if you are in a good mood on camera and you make sure that the space around you is some way prepared, then you will be able also to motivate any other interlocutor in your conference, in your meeting. Or, well, I'm working now with a big library system in the West Coast, and I'll be consulting librarians on leveraging virtual engagement with families, mainly through video, also because now as this thing, COVID, is getting back and badly in the West Coast, and so probably the plan of reopening will be changing. So the engagement, entering into the space of someone else, asking your audience to use the space, not virtually, but not digitally, physically, to do things. It's something that may be a good strategy to motivate your audience or whoever is joining you in the conversation. So, I mean, imagine now we are Italians. We are doing it in my attempt to speak English is disastrous, but we are doing it for the international audience. Imagine we would do something very Italian right now. It's 10:43, maybe too late, but imagine we would get a coffee. You turn now to your left. I know your apartment. I was there. So you turn to your left, you get into that door everybody sees, and then you make a coffee. And then we see each other in 5 minutes again with our espresso cups and tiny little how do you call that? I call it still in Italian piattini. Even at home, and my Australian wife, who has Italian heritage, understands. Sorry, so I completely forgot the term of.
Yeah, they're like little coasters, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, they're little.
So, and then we would have a sip of coffee and chat. So we are doing something that is totally analog and totally related to our life, but it's happening in this form. And it would be incredibly motivating, and we don't think about that. So motivation is definitely something we need to talk about more in the next episode. Then, I started mentioning the teaching the camera and understanding that the camera is actually a mechanical human, or yourself, because it's a mirror,
It's
and
yourself,
that
yeah.
that probably something we can talk about. I think it would be very interesting to talk uh, to an audience of professionals who are going to meetings very often. So I have a very good friend who works in the publishing sector, and they've been launching new books, interesting books, at this time where probably people are some way reading more. And he's on constantly on Zoom meetings for work, uh, and he has two children, and children appear in the camera and appear on camera, and they are part of the meeting, of the very serious meeting of the publishing house. And I'm very curious to understand, and probably we'll have to involve the audience more on that. Maybe we'll do some polls or some polling, some social media work before we have that episode. I am very interested in understanding if the mood of a Zoom meeting at work changes when the face of a child appears on camera, because you know that I'm a truly believer that young children should be able to give a method of better life to adults, just by following what they do as self-guided individuals. So I really need to understand if it is true that the appearance of a child in a meeting can change the mood of the meeting, and maybe can also change the destiny of the meeting and the decision making. Do you have anything else in your mind?
Well, one thing that popped to my mind is that actually people can interact with us live. For now, I see only one comment from
Oh yeah.
Facebook from
Oh,
your
that was a
friend Matteo
yeah,
Schiavoni,
yeah.
who's cheering us and
So you're
telling us
following
that's
him,
very
Matteo?
interesting.
Yeah. I
But
mean, I haven't seen him for years.
yeah, well, he's seeing you a lot right now, and actually there is a live chat on YouTube where we're transmitting right now, and when we have 5 viewers right now, and so people can use the live chat there, or the comments, or the reactions, and actually enter the stream, because one of the characters of the new habitat is that it is also unplanned. It just happens, and whatever happens during this stream will be part of the stream.
That's why we decided not to have a script for the episode,
Yeah,
for
and
the
we
first episode at least. Yeah.
yeah, and we have a sort of idea of themes for the next episodes, where we want to narrow it down and maybe go more in depth. But I also have the feeling, like when I was here recording, I was starting thinking, should we have shorter answers, longer answers? This is all up in the air. We'll figure it out as we go along. I think it's going to be really interesting to focus at the beginning on this theme of screens, of confidence, of motivations, as you said. I think there's a lot of people that really would need to have this experience of having such an excellent communication experience on video that they don't want to go back to the meeting room. It's a
Yeah.
paradox. We all want to go back to meeting as well, but we also want to have our best version of ourselves and our best version of our communication right on those screens, so that this is not a temporary measure of substituting something good with something not as good, but this is actually a very important and legitimate way of communicating. And one of the things that we could devote some time, obviously, I'm quite interested in the technological aspect. And I think one of the things that this pandemic has shown is that nerds thrived during the lockdown, because we all found out more or less that we can exercise from home, we can communicate from home, we can have dinner dates on FaceTime, and so on. And And so, what is this technological advantage? What is the technology that we really need? What is the technology that would sort of improve the quality of our digital habitat in this time? We have lots of themes. The way forward for sure is to keep this conversation going. I'm just curious. What are you working on next week? What is happening in embodied learning next week?
So I have to finish a video, one of the public videos that I have in this series. I started embodied learning at home,
Let me pull
which
it up on
yeah.
because I want to show it so we can use the iPad view. Yeah,
Okay.
embodied
Well,
learning at home.
so embodied learning at home was the it's a great series for all parents of young children who want to have fun with their children without putting them in front of a screen and follow instructions. I noticed immediately when schools closed here in the United States, the public school system was pretty well organized to react and put basically everything online. So definitely there was an overexposure to screens for young children uh, during class times. So let's say between 8 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. And I thought that was enough. So my idea was to talk to the main screen user, the adult, who is responsible for their children, and say, okay, I show you a very interesting, fun activity you can do with your children, but it's a video for adults. So you look at that, then you try on your own. So you turn off the screen. You try on your own things I do. Just to give an example, I have a pot you can find in your kitchen. I filled it up with water. Then I put the pot on top of a sponge cloth. I wet my hands, and then I started rubbing on the handles. And then magically, the metal starts vibrating, and the vibration brings the water in motion. And then if you keep the oscillation constant, then you create the fountain effect in the pot. And then I just show in the video the process on how to build that. But my goal was to have parents interacting with their children live, also because this is the only bit of physical humanity and interaction that is left, or was left. Now it's slowly changing depending where you live in the world. But so I needed those who can hug each other to keep hugging each other. And so I started this video series, which is doing well, better on Facebook than on YouTube. But you are the expert on these things, and the doctor of technology, and you know that the different channels perform in different ways. Anyway, the next video is going to be about outdoors and how to transition to outdoor play in a safe way, and in a way that probably we would never approached before being in this phase, which is related to probably another topic we should talk in the future episodes. Learning how to listen, or relearning how to listen, or appreciating listening. I don't know how to put it, but
It's always current.
yeah, that's it. So
It's always current.
So there will be this work, and then I will have I am going to consult 15 librarians in the Los Angeles area, and we are going to work on the interaction with the public by being virtual librarians. So it's going to be pretty interesting, also because I imagine that people who generally work to the public have a big heart, and they will need to vent. So I am ready to listen to stories. I'm ready to help people be motivated, and then find this pathway of motivation also by working with this new medium, because librarians who work with children are exactly in my situation. So they always worked by using physically and active, and never by using a medium like a screen and a camera. And then, is there anything else? Oh yes, I am getting interviewed by a science writer on something that I want to put on the new version of my website I'm working on, which is called a method given by children. And it's interesting. It's like going to therapy, actually, because I'm talking about my childhood. I talk about the different childhoods I've bumped in during my professional career, and then also while I was a student. And we're putting together basically all the dots that arrive to the thesis that very young children have a method of experiencing and learning that could be applied or implemented by adults in multiple situations and make things work better. Yeah, this is my week. How was your week?
Very cool, very cool. So my week will be interesting. I'm going to be starting one of the jobs with an important media client. This is one of the jobs where I got an email in at the end of March, like, we are sorry, due to COVID, we are going to postpone. And that was one of those, oh my God, why? We could do this perfectly. But it was one of those times where it was really hard to make decisions. Like the earth had shifted so much so quickly that understandably everybody was confused in their personal lives and in their professional lives, and it's totally understandable that clients decided to postpone things. But this is starting again next week, and I'm pretty excited about that. And next week, I'm giving another encore of my 22 webinar secrets. I'm just going to switch to the iPad view and show you the event on Eventbrite. You can just go on Eventbrite and look for 22 webinar secrets all virtual presenters should know. And this session will be live on July 14th at 6 p.m. European time. And maybe Tommaso will help me translate this.
It's 12 p.m. in the Eastern, and it's 9 a.m. Pacific.
Pacific, wonderful. And this is just a free session. And I've started loading also my paid sessions on Eventbrite, which is something I was doing before COVID, and I completely forgot. And so actually right now, you can also book, let me go back to the iPad. You can book my playbook for successful webinars, which is a 2-hour webinar. And you can book my presentation skills half-day masterclass. That is a 4-hour event, which is going to be intense in terms of 4 hour screen time, but using the tricks that we were talking about today, mixing videos with live interaction, with workshops, with working together, asking people to do stuff with their cameras, with their bodies, with their computers. It's gonna be fun. So this is my next week, and whatever else will come up during this crazy moment will be dealt with also during the next week.
Well, it's not that crazy. Come on. Matteo, it's funny that at the very end you mentioned the product related with the money. So probably this is going to be an interesting episode that we have to make. How are we making money now? Because it's now it's sad, but we need to mention it. So I'm scrolling my LinkedIn, and I keep seeing people I worked with, I consulted, I coached, that have been laid off, and they're looking for new opportunities. So probably it would make sense to talk about the new habitat also in this dimension. So how can we use the new medium we have been using now to enhance our career in a time that is very, very complicated? So I think we should have a private chat about that, and then talking about how to make the money. Yeah.
I'm taking notes because what happened to us was just that there was these 2 or 3 months of nothingness, of very little work, but this also translates into layoffs. So this is something that we need to talk about in a broader way, definitely.
And maybe to close, just give me a quick answer. Are your clients coming back?
Maybe different clients are coming back.
Different clients, does it mean new clients?
Might be new clients. Yeah.
Okay. Because I have my clients who are coming back, and now I have my new challenge. How do I get new clients by knowing that our first interaction will be exactly like the interaction we've been having right now?
Yeah, but but our audience doesn't know that in October of 2019, I started a big transition of my activity from mostly marketing and consulting to mostly communication and training. And so, when COVID struck, that was the moment where I was acquiring new clients, new types of clients. So for me, this is still a moment of client acquisition. I had campaigns running even in the darkest moments of lockdown, and I've been experimenting with whatever can be done in order to create new opportunities, not necessarily just make money, but understand the pulse of the situation throughout this time. And yeah, definitely we need to talk about this.
So the
Shall
new
we?
habitat, well, yes. Let me just close. Maybe the new habitat is something that helps you understand that we may be in a temporary situation, but probably we could just instead of adapt, make profit out of it and see the opportunity to grow, improve, and some way be better together.
Absolutely. Never miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube and like us on Facebook. The official channel will be The New Habitat on YouTube, and on Facebook we are The New Habitat Live. Thank you for watching this first episode of this live show. I'm Matteo Cassese.
Thank you very much for watching. My name is Tommaso, and I am at embodiedlearning.co all the time.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye
Ciao,
bye.
Matt.